This is breaking news.
Okay, take a listen to this.
These villains that we now have in our universe happen to be characters that are in the Sinister Six. There may be something that happens in that.
Wait, hold on a second. Yeah, you heard that right. That woman in the video clip, the one being all coy about the Sinister Six, that's Amy Pascal. She used to be the head of Sony's film division, but now she's the producer, and in that video, she has all but confirmed that the Sinister Six will appear in the next installment of the Spider-Man franchise. But what exactly does this mean? Allow us to explain. So when Amy Pascal refers to all of these villains we now have in our universe, who is she talking about? And where have they appeared in these first two Spider-Man movies? Well, let's quickly recap what's happened in Tom Holland Spider-Man and point out the important villains along the way. So, he first appeared in Captain America Civil War, but let's skip ahead to his first standalone movie, Spider-Man Homecoming. Unlike the last Spider-Man franchise to get a third installment, this version of Peter Parker is actually in high school. He's got a best friend and sidekick named Ned, and a crush named Liz, whose dad, it just so happens, is the Vulture.
Now, you go on in there, you show my daughter a good time.
This is the first Sinister Six villain who pops up in the movie, and although Spidey defeats him, he doesn't end him, he just sends him to jail. So obviously he'll be back, but more on that later. He's also got an employee who is another member of the Sinister Six, Shocker. But with this villain, it's not so much the actual person who matters, it's the gauntlet that gets passed around between three people. First, there's Jackson Bryce, who gets dusted by an alien gun. Then there's Herman Schultz, who gets webbed to a school bus. Then there's Tiny McKeever, one of Peter's classmates, who picks up the electric gauntlet off the ground and poses with it in front of a news crew in a deleted scene. So maybe he could be the Shocker of the Sinister Six? Anyway, the rest of the movie's plot isn't that important. Peter and Liz's little romance doesn't last, but the bromance with Ned stays strong even after Peter defeats the Vulture. And then, after the main movie ends, in a mid-credits scene in jail, Vulture actually learns that Spider-Man is Peter Parker from a guy named Mac Gargan, who you would probably know as the Scorpion. Just like Vulture, Scorpion is a card-carrying member of the Sinister Six. So at the end of movie 1, we have 3 out of the 6 members. On to movie 2! In Far From Home, we're actually only introduced to one villain who has appeared in the Sinister Six in the past, but he's a very good one, Mysterio, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. At the end of the movie, in another mid-credits scene, we get the setup for the next Tom Holland Spider-Man. In the scene, Peter is swinging around with MJ when a giant TV screen on the side of a building lights up with a breaking news report. It shows a doctored video which Mysterio no doubt edited that mixes and matches some of Spidey's words to make it seem like he ordered a drone strike on London. At the end of the clip, J. Jonah Jameson comes on the screen and announces,
"Here's the real blockbuster. Brace yourselves, you might want to sit down."
It cuts back to Mysterio, who reveals,
"Spider-Man's name is Peter Parker."
So, Spidey's identity is revealed, which complicates the whole anonymous crime-fighting thing, and it gives us 4 members of our bad guy supergroup. The only 2 that are missing are Kraven the Hunter and Dr. Octopus. Now that Amy Pascal has pretty much confirmed the fact that the Sinister Six are going to be appearing in this Spider-Man franchise, how will they actually do it? Well, we don't know exactly, but the group's history in comics could give us a few clues. The Sinister Six first appeared in 1964, The Amazing Spider-Man Annual Number 1. Although their roster was slightly different then, there was no Scorpion back then, their motivations for forming the group are similar to the ones we've seen in the recent movies. In the comics, Doc Ock is in prison after being defeated by Spider-Man. After spending a lot of time alone in his cell, stewing over the fact that Spidey got him locked up, he decides to get his revenge. So his octopus arms come back and break him out, and he puts out a call to everyone who hates Spider-Man to join up and take him down. Kraven, Sandman, Vulture, Shocker, and Mysterio all respond, and voila, the Sinister Six is born. That's awfully similar to what we've seen already in Homecoming and Far From Home. In the post-credits scene for Homecoming, when Vulture and Scorpion run into each other in jail, Scorpion says something interesting. Although he's not exactly being friendly, he conveys an enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of vibe. He says that some of his boys on the outside also want Spider-Man gone. Specifically, they want to,
take a picture, slice his throat, put his head in a dryer.
Yeesh. Anyway, this is the same way that the original group got together, but in the comics, they also did something very strange. They decided to face Spider-Man one at a time, drawing straws to decide what order they'd go in. Needless to say, this was stupid. Why fight him one-on-one when you could fight him 6-on-1? That probably won't happen this time around, but something else might. To lure Spidey into the fights they have planned, the original Sinister Six captured Aunt May. That means that they knew his identity. After Far From Home, pretty much everyone knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, so you can bet that the Sinister Six will be kidnapping either Aunt May, MJ, or Ned. Maybe even all three. Alternatively, the Six could find themselves being funded by the government, Suicide Squad style, given that the public thinks Spider-Man is a murderer now. Either way, their hunting him down will be very personal. When speculating about who's going to be in this new Sinister Six, things are made a little more complicated by some other movies that have been coming out recently. These movies aren't exactly in the MCU, although they are about the Marvel characters. But what cinematic universe do they belong to? Let's start with Venom. He's been in the Sinister Six in the past, and he's just had a very successful big screen debut, soon to be followed by a sequel where he squares off against Carnage. And after all, what are Venom and Carnage without Spider-Man? They could be the two missing members. But there are other possibilities too. Only 2 months ago, we got our first glimpse at the film adaptation of Morbius, Spidey's living vampire nemesis. Jared Leto's version, like much of what Jared Leto is involved in, looks confusing. In the 3-minute-long teaser trailer for the upcoming film, there are references to two completely different Spider-Man franchises. The first one happens as Morbius is walking by a wall with graffiti on it. The accusation on the wall is a reference to the end of Homecoming, where Mysterio tricks everyone into thinking that Spidey ordered a drone strike on civilians. But the picture of Spider-Man underneath the word murderer is not the Tom Holland MCU Spider-Man. It's the Spider-Man from way back when, in the Tobey Maguire days. So the writing references one cinematic universe, while the picture underneath it references another. But there's more. At the end of the trailer, who should show up but the Vulture? Yep, as Morbius walks by, he asks him if he got tired of doing the whole good guy thing, and even hits him up with a,
"What's up, Doc?"
So this is a definite connection between Morbius and a member of the Sinister Six who has already appeared in an MCU Spider-Man film. But what's even crazier is the direct narrative link. You can see in this little scene that Michael Keaton is wearing the exact same prison jumpsuit that he was wearing in the post-credit scene of Spider-Man Homecoming. This is not an accident. When you pair the prison suit with the blue and red lights in the background, with the smile on Vulture's face and the question he asks Morbius, it makes you think, did Morbius break the Vulture out of prison? Did he do it to form the Sinister Six? Probably! So we've now got Morbius, Vulture, Scorpion, and whoever decides to don the gauntlet and becomes Shocker. Plus, there's Mysterio. He's technically no longer alive, but he's already pulled one trick from beyond the grave, so I wouldn't put it past him to either 1. Still be alive, or 2. Have a bunch of tricky plans set up to play out posthumously. So, that's 5 of 6, which leaves us with 1 unfilled spot. Although it could be Venom or Carnage, our bet's on someone else, Kraven the Hunter. So who is this guy? Well, first off, he's got a movie in the works, which we don't know anything about other than the fact that it is confirmed. As for the character himself, his government name is Sergei Kravinoff. He's the son of a Russian aristocrat who fled his home country after the Bolshevik Revolution. Just like real aristocrats, Kraven is a big game hunter, and his dream is to catch Spider-Man. So having a movie about him without the web slinger would prove a little difficult. Who else is he gonna shoot with poison darts or trap and nets? So we have a possible team: Kraven, Morbius, Vulture, Scorpion, Shocker, and Mysterio. But how will they end up on the big screen? Well, there's been speculation that it might not actually happen through a Spider-Man film. There have actually been rumors going around for years now about a standalone movie dedicated to the Sinister Six. It was originally supposed to happen in 2013 and was going to be written and directed by Drew Goddard, the guy who made Cabin in the Woods. But Goddard got busy, so it's been sidelined. Apparently, Goddard's schedule is actually the only reason it hasn't been made yet. Amy Pascal, that woman from the beginning of the video, the one who produces all the Spider-Man movies, said, "I'm just waiting for Drew to be ready to direct it. I would do anything with Drew Goddard. I'm just waiting for him to tell me he wants to." So maybe Amy Pascal and the people at Sony, after seeing the success of the cinematic universe being created by Disney and Marvel, decided to try their hand at it. But instead of focusing in on heroes, they would make a Marvel villain cinematic universe. How exactly will this play out? We'll just have to wait and see. So who do you think will end up being in the Sinister Six? Will it be Morbius or Kraven? Or will they bring back Doc Ock? When do you think they'll introduce us to this supergroup? Give us all your wildest guesses in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to The Binger for more on everything Spider-Man and the Sinister Six.